bills falling behind. They're talking about repossessing the car. Things are getting dark. I just used what I had. I couldn't afford the Adobe Suite when I started. Downloaded this $50 program and just made it work for me. Charging with your worth is the difference between a $60,000 a year business or $120,000 a year business. This is just a call to designers, y'all. Like, you're needed. You may be trying to give up right now, but you're needed. You're not just passing through. You're not just dipping your toe in the water. You're essential.
What's poppin'? Welcome, Nicky and Moose. I'm Nicky. That's Moose. What's up, Moose?
What up, y'all?
And we have a very special episode. We say that every episode, but I mean, we got somebody who went from working a 9-to-5, I'm talking about credit union, to insurance, to $1 million graphic design business. What?
Ooh.
I mean, has a complete framework to help people go from 0 to 6 figures with their graphic design. Went through a whole entrepreneurship journey to just loss and trying to figure things out, to now running one of the best graphic design businesses that has a waiting list. I don't even want to talk about it because I can't even get on it. Moose, who are we talking about?
Everybody got to wait for that list, or on that list, I should say. And might I add, this dude is probably one of the most humble and a person of great integrity as well. I want to make sure I mention that too. But folks, we're talking about the one and only Marshall Foxx.
Let's get into this intro.
2 kids from Queens, cut from a different cloth. Now joining forces, helping you to elevate your personal brand. Yeah, I'm talking about Nicky and Moose, bringing you a never before seen perspective into the mindset, the mentality, the behaviors, the driving force, but more importantly, the stories behind the people and brands that you know and love the most.
And of course, you know this is powered by Ecamm Live, the #1 all-in-one streaming platform that not only allows you to stream on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of that, right? But from a pre-recorded side, you get video isolation, audio isolation, transitions, text, presentations, whatever you need, Ecamm got it. And you can get 14 days for free on us with www.nickyandmoose.com/ecamm. That's ECAMM for that 14-day trial. Now, without further ado, let's bring our guest of the day, Marshall Foxx. You feel me?
What's good, y'all? What's good?
How are you?
I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm phenomenal, and I'm pumped up to be here. Look, y'all don't know this, but Nicky, Moose, and myself, we like family, y'all. So it's good to see them and good to be on here. I appreciate the invite.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about it all. We're gonna talk about it all, but of course, Moose, start us off.
Yeah, man, let's get into it, man. It's gonna be a really exciting episode. You said it. We are like fam. We met, I want to say, almost 7 years ago, believe it or not. It don't seem like it's been that long, but it really has. But more importantly, I want to get into your story first, man. Can you let the people know who is Marshall Foxx?
Yeah. So Marshall, 34. I'm a resident of Maryland and Florida. I've been married almost 15 years. Have 4 beautiful kids. I'm a graphic designer. I'm a graphic design business mentor and coach as well. I guess I can be considered a speaker, newly minted, new to the game. But yeah, I mean, it didn't start out like this, right? So, I mean, you want me to jump into the story going back at the beginning?
Go ahead.
Yeah, please do. I mean, because you know, I'm sure people see you now like, oh, dude is a graphic designer with a long wait list. He must have been super confident and had this booming business for as long as we can all remember. But you didn't start off as a, in that industry. So yeah, take us there and just take us through that transition a little bit.
Yeah. So back in 2016, I was a fraud prevention manager at a credit union. Not to bore you with the details, but it was an okay gig, making decent money. But I started listening to ET. You guys are familiar with ET, Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher. Like, yo, who is this guy? I started getting pumped up, reading a lot of books, getting up early to 3 a.m. The whole ET schedule, right? He had me feeling invincible. Like he had me feeling like I could run through a brick wall, right? So I was like, you know what? I'm leaving this job. I'm gonna do something different. I'm not the 9 to 5 type. So I actually left doing that, and I jumped into selling final expense insurance or life insurance, straight commission, no salary, just door to door. We would buy leads from the company. They was about $35 each, and we would buy like 10, 20 of them just to go see these people that called in and requested information. Um, so I had a couple great months that summer. This is 2016. Y'all, I actually joined Breathe University the day I left that job. I left the credit union to get into selling insurance. That's where I met Nicky. What was it? April?
Mm.
Wow, it's over 7 years now. Yep,
Yeah,
April
it's been a minute.
2016. Yes, yeah. Shout out to the original BU crew. But yeah, had a couple great months, and then I fell flat on my face. I had bought a bunch of leads in a neighborhood that wasn't too friendly to my kind. You catch my drift.
Hmm.
It was crazy. So nobody let me in to sell a policy. So I was in a hole with those leads because you had kind of finance them. Bought more to dig myself out of that hole, and it just didn't work out. So this is the first time in my adult life that bills falling behind. They talking about repossessing the car. Things are getting dark, and I grew up middle class, never missed a meal. So this is like the first time I'm experiencing some like financial hardship or really seeing it first class, like first hand. So I was faced with at a crossroads. My wife was like, I'll go back and get a job. She was a stay at home mom. We had 2 kids at the time. I said, no, I can't have you do that. And she's like, "Oh, what if you do graphic design? I know you do your little promo graphics and your flyers and stuff for your insurance business. What if you do that for clients and get paid?" And I gave her every excuse in the book. I said, I didn't go to school for this. I don't have any experience. And I Googled the average salary. It was like 45K. Y'all had $1 million dreams. I was trying to build a $1 million agency
Mhm.
with my father in the insurance business.
Facts.
I was like, no, I can't support my family with that. Um, but I was like, I got nothing to lose. Let me go for it. So I actually reached out to somebody in Breathe University. His name is YB. And I was like, hey man, looks like your logo could use some work. You mind if I work on a couple concepts for you? He's like, man, you'd be a blessing to me. Go for it. And I still have those DMs to this day. Just to, I need to frame them, to be honest, because that's when
Wow.
everything changed. So I worked on some concepts, and I keep it 100. A few of them he didn't like, right? But one of them he kind of gravitated towards, and that's the one that we kind of fine tuned. And once it was perfected, he posted it on LinkedIn and in the BU Facebook group. All the flame emojis you can imagine. Everybody was commenting, even ET. They took notice, and that led to my first book cover project, my first website project. So I was really learning on the fly, but my business kind of exploded at that point. So this was October 2016, when my business kind of took off. And I looked back after a few months and realized I had made like 18 grand in like 3 months. And I was like, okay, this could be something. Like if we average this out for a year, it's like 60, 70K a year. If I go based off of this trend, I could do that, and I'm just sitting at home clicking around on my laptop, doing a lot of failing, right? Learning from experience and getting those reps in early on. Um, but I've been in this space ever since, y'all. Like it's been dope.
Wow. So no graphic design history or experience prior to that. Like that was
Right.
it.
Yeah, none. Yeah, well, I did take a computer graphics class in high school, so it was like an interest. So that's kind of where I got the baseline knowledge to just create some graphics for myself. But I wasn't even using the Adobe suite at the time. I was just using the Affinity suite, which I still use. I use Adobe now, but I just used what I had. I couldn't afford the Adobe suite when I started, so I just used what I had.
Mhm.
Downloaded this $50 program, and just made it work for me.
Man, that's powerful. It's like somebody needs to hear that. Like, yo, sometimes your the thing that you least expected is the one that's going to really take you there. So take us
Yeah.
through the next sequence of that journey. I remember there was a time when I was talking to you and you would say, well, I worked the 4 a.m. shift. I was like, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, excuse me, what? You start your day when? You're like, yeah,
Mhm.
no,
Yeah.
I have 2 shifts a day. I start at 4 a.m., I
Yeah.
finish, and then I take a little nap, and then I come back. Can you talk us
Mhm.
about that? Talk to us through that journey, because somebody might have heard this and said, oh, wow, it just took him one try to become this 6 and 7 figure agency owner. But can you
Yeah.
talk us about some of the challenges now post that first phase when getting started?
Yeah. Yeah, man, so many, man. So many. So early on, things were happening pretty fast, right? Clients were coming in left and right, and I was saying yes to everything, like everything. But on the flip side, I was able to get my 10,000 hours in about 3.5 years just because I was just working so much. Like Moose said, I did have 2 shifts. A lot of times I'll be working overnight, pulling that graveyard shift just to get stuff done. But on the flip side, stuff would slip through the cracks. Communication would be lacking with clients, and I would kind of use my gift or my talent as a crutch where it was like, okay, if something might be late, but it's gonna be fire and they're gonna love it. They're gonna forgive me. And that was the case. And I just thank my clients for giving me so much grace early on because if they were honest, like us on our Facebook page, we have over 100 and something 5-star reviews. I'm like, if these clients were honest, I have some 3 stars in there, so for, if they were being honest, but they really gave me a lot of grace. And of course, I've tightened up, and I don't make those same mistakes as I did before, and I help other designers avoid those mistakes and pitfalls because it's not sustainable. It leads to burnout, which I've experienced several times. You know, um, Dissatisfied clients. You just want to operate with integrity, but yeah, I say yes to everything. There's a quote that I love by it's a man named Blair Enns. He's one of the goats in the graphic design space. He says there are 2 levels of success. The first level you get to by saying yes to almost everything, right? And that's where I was. I started to make 6 figures after like a year or two, but at the cost of my peace, at the cost of, like I said, stuff falling through the cracks. But I got my reps in, and I learned like hard and fast, like what to do, what not to do. So the first level you get to by saying yes to almost everything, and the second level you get to by saying no to almost everything. So that's where I am right now. I'm highly selective, when it comes to projects, what I take, what I don't take. Right now, a lot of the times I'm not able to take anything just because I made a shift more into the coaching and the training. That's where my heart is. Design, it's been cool. It's fed my family, but I got into it to feed my family. I didn't get into it just because I was just so passionate about design. I got into it to feed my family. So I was very I want I want to use the word capitalistic, but I don't want to I want to seem like I was a shark, like, because I was performing the service. My clients loved it. They're having impact with the designs that I create for them. But it's not just because, like, if somebody asked me, what would I do if I had all the money in the world? Would you be? I wouldn't say, oh, I would just wake up and just design all day. No, it's not. That's not the case. But
Mm.
now it's kind of led me into a passion. Not the sound effect, but it's kind of led me to where I am now, which is pouring into other designers and helping them with their businesses. Because a lot of graphic designers, well, one, we get a bad rap for the reasons I explained, and two, a lot of them are phenomenally talented, way more talented than I am, and they're not making any money. They're not able to feed their families. So I just want to give them the game and let them know what adjustments they need to make, so they can put themselves in position to do this full time and not as like a side hustle. You see what I'm saying? So that's
Mm.
where I am right now.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go there, Marshall, because you said the average salary was 45,000. I heard
Hmm.
you just say you cleared 6 figures in a year, obviously now more selective and doing a lot better. But what would be the framework that a graphic designer should follow to get themselves to the 6 figure mark?
Yeah. So over the years, and I didn't hit 7 figures in a year. Just so y'all know that. I know people use the fact that I hit 7 figures, um, and like promo and stuff. But I want people to know it's not. It didn't happen in a year. It didn't happen in 2 years or 3 years. And honestly, it wasn't until the past 3 or so years that revenue really ramped up because I was around, I think 120, then 140, and then things kind of took off like to the 200s, 211, 266, like in that area. So over the years, I've kind of looked back, especially when I started coaching designers, to say, okay, what are you doing? What aren't you doing? What did I do, to to hit this that you're not doing, I really started to analyze everything. So I put together like this framework. Okay. So there are 7 specific steps. And they seem simple, but a lot of designers, we kind of all over the place. We're doing a little bit of design, we're doing videography, photography,
Hmm.
and it just looks from the outside looking in, it looks like we're just trying to make ends meet. And that may be the case, but you never want to come across like you're just trying to make ends meet because that scares away high paying clients. There's clients out here that got money to spend. You guys know it, right? There's not enough high value designers, there's not enough designers that show up at a high level consistently to answer that call. So I put together this framework. So step 1 is to clarify your mission and your goals, right? And really your vision. So where are you trying to go? Why are you even in this space? And with that comes self-assessment. Right? You have to be honest and assess your skills, assess your interests, and assess what your clients need and how your interests and skills line up with that. Because a lot of designers, will do things we don't necessarily like, or our clients will request things that we're not great at. So you have to figure out, okay, for example, if it's logo design or branding, am I good at it? Do I suck at it? If I suck at it, then am I going to get better at it? And if so, how? Am I going to delegate it, or am I going to get rid of it? Right. So we have to really dive down deep into the self assessment piece. Because a lot of times we don't want to be honest. When we get stuck doing things we don't necessarily like myself, in particular, I don't really like flyers. I don't like doing slide decks, stuff like that. So with that, when I get requested, I delegate it. I delegate those types of things. But a lot of times we don't, we just don't do that, and then we get stuck. So you really have to take a personal inventory and then set some aggressive goals. It's okay to set goals as a designer. So if you want to make 6 figures, what does that look like? Break it down, by month and then by week. And let's say, it's like, let's say $2,000 a week or something like that. So what does that mean in terms of your services and your pricing and then your capacity? Do you have the capacity to even reach that based on your current prices? $100 flyer, that's not going to do it. You see what I'm saying? So when you have those goals, you can set specific steps. You can break them down into specific steps to achieve those goals, right? So that's step 1 is clarifying your vision and goals, and step 2 is setting up your business and your systems. A lot of designers, we just accepting stuff, invoicing out of PayPal, Cash App, all of that. Don't set up an LLC, like little things like that. Setting up your business, making sure your business is legally registered. Actually having a portfolio, actually having a professional email address rather than a Gmail, things like that.
Hmm.
Setting up a business bank account, using the CRM, and that's a client relationship manager. I recommend Dubsado, but there are other ones out there like 17 Hats, Honeybook. So you can have one specific space or place for your clients. So everything like your questionnaires, your contracts, your invoicing, your scheduler, a client portal. I like Dozado because it has a client portal. And that's impressive to clients. They're used to working with designers. They don't have any of that. So my
Hmm.
perceived value is a lot higher in my positioning and posturing. I just I separate myself just by having a client portal. Little things like that designers aren't doing. So that's step 2. And step 3 is clarifying your market and your messaging. So a lot of designers, we just work with everybody, any and everybody, doesn't matter who they are. Like Larry said, sometimes you have to do that, but you want to get to a point, and I recommend having between 50 to 100 clients, so you can get a large enough data sample to figure out who it is that you enjoy working with the most, who truly values what you do, like they let you do your job, and who has the means to pay you what you're worth. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot, let's say you work with real estate agents. They may value what you do. You may like working with them, but maybe they don't have the means to pay you what you want to get paid. That's not gonna be a long term sustainable business for you. So you kind of have to have that trifecta, but you have to have a large enough data sample to figure out who that is. So you can say, okay, I work with a few real estate agents, a few lawyers, a few beauty brands, and things like that to figure out who that is. So once you know who that is, you can speak to them because you know who they are, you know their language, you know what to say. That's like early on. I think a lot of my quote unquote success has been due to the fact that I say I serve speakers. At least I did, early on. I serve speakers. So you guys have seen the Facebook posts. It's like, hey, who does logos? Who does websites? And like 40 designers that get tagged, right? They will all respond like, yeah, I sent you a DM. I never would have to respond, but I would get tagged by a couple people. And if that person is a speaker, they went to my site and it said, hey, I serve speakers, I would get a long, hard look just because I said I serve them. and my messaging is tailored to them. Whether they could afford my services or not is a different story. But the fact that I penetrated through the noise, I cut through the noise and said, hey, I serve you. I got a long, hard look. So that really helped out early on. And it still helps to this day by saying I serve speakers. And now I say, I serve 7, 8 figure speakers now. But that helps as well, because speaking to everyone is speaking to no one. So having a specific niche or niche will help you to kind of separate yourself from the competition. So step 4 is presenting yourself as a premium service provider. So that goes along from not only social media, like how you show up on social media and your website, but also all your touch points, your email, your whatever marketing that you do. If you're out in public, let's say you have a trade show booth, a vendor, retractable banner, and also on consultations and Zoom calls. Are you intentional about how you show up? A lot of designers, we just look like we in our grandma's basement on a Zoom call, and we just plop down on our lunch break. We about to go back to our full-time job at Starbucks. But even if that's the case, you never want to show up like that. You never want to come across like that. You want to show up like, I do this full time. I take this serious, because it shows that you're going to take the client's project serious as well. And it gives them a bit more confidence. And it's an icebreaker too. I'm not saying you have to have a elaborate, dope setup looking like a YouTuber and all of that, but at least upgrade your lighting. Make sure that your camera quality is, you don't have to get an expensive camera, get a webcam. Don't use the camera that's on your laptop. Even if you use your phone, if you're on iPhone, you can use your phone as a webcam now, continuity camera, I believe. Just be a bit more intentional about how you're showing up on these consultations and Zoom calls, because it'll take you a long way. Even doing something like using Loom to send back a quick video to a client if that reaches out to you. Say, hey, it's good to meet you. I just wanted you to see my face. This is a little bit about what we do, what we offer. Little things like that will go a long way. Just being intentional about how you show up. So number 5 is creating your high value packages and pricing them accordingly. So something that I work with designers on is going from a la carte services, like $100 flyers, to creating packages. So a lot of designers, they'll charge like $100 a flyer. I'll say, look, going forward, you're not charging $100, you're charging 500 plus, and just create a package. Say, hey, instead of 5 flyers for $500, say, I'll give you 6 flyers for $500. So it's like they get an extra flyer, but now you have a package just like that. And you're not really doing that much more work, and you're getting paid $500 a pop as opposed to $100 here and there. Because there's a switching cost when it comes to jumping from project to project to project. What we already do as designers, it can get dark and lonely, because we're just sitting at our computer and we're coming up with designs over and over and over. It's mentally exhausting, right? Now, we have AI to help us out with that. But it can be mentally exhausting. Yes. Shout out to AI. It's an interesting time, but it's exciting. And then pricing those packages accordingly. And as you start to elevate your positioning, and you speak to a specific type of client, you're able to kind of set your rate. You're able to kind of be a little higher than the next guy, because there is no next guy. Like when you kind of create your own market, and there's no competition, right? And number 6 is develop your 6-figure process. So all the way from beginning to end. So from discovery, when they first reach out to you, through to the consultation, through to setting up their client portal, giving them their contract, making sure you clearly set the expectations that are expected of them and what they should expect of you, how long it should take, then the design process, revisions, etc. How many revisions do they get? All of that should be clearly defined up front. So there's no guessing game. Then, once you perfect whatever the design is, the website or whatever, launch it, post-launch. What does that look like? Do they get a tutorial? Do you maintain the site? All of that stuff should be clearly defined. It shouldn't just be up in the air. And you don't ever want them to have to ask you what that is. You should tell them up front. And then step 7 is just relaunching. So all that we just talked about, putting all that to work, and then relaunching as a premium service provider, as more of a high-end, high-touch service provider, as opposed to like an order-taking grunt worker, which is a lot of designers we end up being. So I know that was a lot, but that's a peek behind the curtain at the process, at the step-by-step system that, if you get it right, you pretty much guaranteed to at least do this full time. I can't guarantee 6 figures, but I know designers that are doing it once they implement it.
All right, we just gave you the whole blueprint. Good night, people. No, I'm playing.
Right. See you next week.
Boom.
No, that's and You know, the thing that came to mind is, especially when you said, I always said I was a graphic designer for speakers. I think that always made even my selection process, because you and I worked together early on, it was
Yeah.
easy to say, oh, I don't have to look at many other alternatives because this person is working directly with my kind of people. So it's like, if he's working with all the people you look up to, it's easier. Marshall, tell us, out of these 7 steps, which one do you think is the most difficult for people to apply and why?
Niching down. So clarifying your marketing, your market, and your message. That's the hardest because people tend to overcomplicate it. Like they want to have all the answers. They want to know what the most profitable niche is going to be and all of that. Um, but I'll tell them, look, pick one out of those that you work with. Just pick one and go all in that space. If you don't know, but of course that you want to, like I said, they have to be somebody you actually enjoy working with, right? They have to value what you do. They have to let you do your job. They don't have, micromanage, want have to hold your hand. And then they have to be the type of client that pays your invoice with no issue, right? Because you don't want to get stuck. And it's like, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you, and then shame on me. Whatever the saying is, but you just don't want to
Whatever that
get
is.
caught. Yeah, you don't want to get caught when you know what you need to do. So yeah, niching down is a big one, but I have like a whole system on how to do that because like I said, designers tend to overcomplicate it, but you don't want to overcomplicate it. Like I have a colleague of mine who he serves doctors. He's a graphic designer, and he serves doctors. So and he did that without even a large data sample. He said I'm gonna serve doctors. So he built his website around that. And now he does more revenue than I do just because he said I serve doctors.
Wow. Yeah.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
So let me get in
Yep.
because you said niche, and so we're talking about branding now. So I'm here for this one. Talk to me a bit about. Let's go into the design talk. What makes a good brand from a design level? Like
Mhm.
both of us have served some interesting people, and we've seen some do's and don'ts when it comes to this
Mhm.
topic. So what makes a 6-figure brand from a design level, and some do's and don'ts for the people who want to get to that level?
Yeah. So I would say having a consistent design language. I know Nikki loves that word, consistency. Having a consistent design language, so that's like a consistent look and feel across all of your different touch points. So when people see your stuff, they're like, "Oh yeah, yup, that's Nikki," or that's Moose. When they see your stuff, because you don't want your stuff to look all over the place, looking like you did a little bit of it. Homie did some of it. You did some on Canva. Fiverr did some of it. It's all over the place. You just want it to be consistent. Use 2 or 3 colors max. Keep your design simple. Your logo simple. Because your logo it's meant to identify, not explain. Right? You don't have to tell a whole story using your logo. Clients early on they would try to do that. Like, oh, I need to have a flower and this and that because it means so much to me and my mother. She was this. So it's like, no, you don't need to have all that in your logo. And if you have to explain that to your viewer or your audience, then it failed. It failed. So just think about Target or Walmart. Why isn't their logo a shopping cart? You don't have to say, look, I'm a superstore. Oh, what is it? Who knows? Target is a Target. Walmart's maybe a Sunray. Think Under Armour, Nike. What is it? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's just meant to identify, not explain, not tell the whole story. So you don't want to overcomplicate it. You want to keep your branding, your logo simple, memorable, timeless, versatile, and appropriate, right? So, the versatility is something I see a lot of people miss. Their logo will be a little bit complex. So when you scale it down at the corner of a video, like you see the Nicky and Moose logo there, then you can't tell what it is, right? So you want to make sure it's versatile, or like a favicon on the top of a website, or just your logo at the top of your website. You scale it down. You got to make sure you're able to tell what it is. You got to make sure you're able to embroider it, right? Just like Nicky's hat. Are you able to embroider that logo, or is it going to be impossible because it's just too complex, right? So stuff like that you want to keep in mind. Don't overcomplicate it either, y'all. Like, people tend to overcomplicate the branding process, the visual branding process. It should be very simple, and it helps to know your audience. because you want to create something that's simple and it just doesn't fly over your audience's head. They don't have to have a whole story and a whole bunch of meaning behind it. As long as it doesn't fly over their head, as long as they get it when they see it, then that's all that matters. So
Let's talk about AI real quick. Let's talk about AI because we just gave the framework from a brand going into the design level, but now with Midjourney, with Microsoft Designer, Canva having AI features now, like what is your take as a graphic designer and teaching other graphic designers? What is your take on AI, and is it good? Is it bad? And where do you see it going?
yeah, so my take, it's interesting because I went from being a bit late to the AI party to having a bit of a different perspective and more of an appreciation for it. So I spoke in Raleigh a few weeks ago, and there's a gentleman by the name of Chris Doe. He's one of the goats in the graphic design space. So he was there, and there was another man that gave a presentation on AI, and he's written a few books on AI within the past year. He's well respected, primarily on LinkedIn, right? On LinkedIn. And Chris got up at the end of this guy's presentation and said, "Look, you guys are asking questions about talking to the audience, asking questions about what are the copyright rules and how is this regulated." And it was just a lot of fear talk. He said, "Don't do that. You want to be at the forefront." He said, "I would like to see a minority up on that stage talking about AI. So don't be afraid." And you asking, "Is AI going to take our jobs?" He said, "No, AI is not going to take your job. It's going to be someone who's using AI that's going to take your job. So learn AI, get comfortable with it, get familiar with it." So I took that advice and ran with it. So I started, looking more into it, started using it because I don't want to get left behind, right? So, and I want to be a friend to AI. If the machines take over the world, I want to be an ally. You feel me? Like, I got kids. No, but
Fact.
seriously, I think it's a tool. The few things that I've done with it, namely Mid-Journey. Also, I'm using Photoshop, the beta with the generative fill. It's a game changer. It is a game changer. If you're a designer or creator who uses Photoshop, download that right now. Pause this video, go download the Photoshop beta and start using the generative fill. It's a game changer. Like I use it, I'll do flyers or, for example, the Next Level Speakers Conference. Shout out to Jeremy Anderson. Tons of speakers on these flyers, right? Get photos from all kinds of people. Or let's say we just took Moose's his image right now, his shoulders cut off, and I needed the rest of his shoulders for this flyer because everybody else has their shoulders, right? I could use generative fill to create the rest of his shoulders, really the rest of his body if I wanted to. And I
Mhm.
recently designed my cousin's funeral program, and there was an image of his face that was kind of cropped from his graduation photo. And I was able to use generative fill to create the rest of his head and his shoulders and everything. And I almost got emotional when I saw it. All this is from Photoshop generative fill, y'all. It's really amazing. It's a game changer, and it makes my job that much easier. So I'm for it, man. I like seeing the tools that are coming out daily. I know, Nikki, you always have some dope recommendations. I'm on Twitter. Got some email newsletters I'm subscribed to. So I think it's a dope time. And my recommendation would be don't be afraid. Just try to learn what you can. There's a lot of junk out there, but sift through it and find the one or two tools that you could really use on a daily basis to make your job easier. You never know. There's always something new out.
You heard it. Get onto AI. Ben told y'all.
Yeah.
Ben told y'all.
Yes.
All right, so let's ask a selfish question. Let's ask a selfish question. So I've been doing this. Me and Moose been doing this podcast for a little bit. Brand's been growing a little bit. When is it time to get a website? Right? When is it time to get a website? Because if y'all don't know, Marshall has designed some of the most fire websites out there, clearly in the speaker world. But I mean, just really put it against anybody. It's really fire. But we've seen different tools from people doing it themselves, and it looks trash, to paying
Mhm.
hundreds and thousands of dollars and just looks out of this world, but budget is crazy. So when should somebody get a website, And what are some things to avoid in this website journey, regardless of the niche that you're in?
hmm Yeah. So it really just depends on you, your business, and your situation, right? So there are some people, um, they get it out the mud, Nikki. Yeah, no website, no no logo, and they scale their businesses. So I tell potential clients this, that you don't have to spend a ton of money on your branding, your website and stuff like that, unless you made, money in your business. Until you made money in your business, because I know people that would spend a lot of money on a logo and website only for them to change their mind in 6 months. Like, I don't even like this business, or this, but it's not as popping as I thought it would be. There's no real demand, so like they don't really have that market validation. So I highly recommend you get out there and get your uh your hands dirty. Just get it out the mud and see if people really want your or need your service first. And it's not the popular opinion, because designers like, man, I'm trying to get everything. Just if they got money to spend, I'll take it. It's like, nah, I don't want people to waste their money out here. But on the flip side, depending on your business, you may need a website to get going. You may need a website for people to you know to take orders through, for people to purchase your products through, to book you, etc. So it really just depends on where you are in your journey in your business. So like I say, if you're a speaker, you definitely need a website, whether you do it yourself or get someone else to do it. Just depends on your budget, right? Because you needs a place for people to see what you do, what value you bring to the marketplace, what your speaking topics are, what clients you've worked with in the past, what services you offer, if you do coaching, consulting, just like that main hub, right? That main hub. And you also need that virtual real estate as well. So when people Google you, your website will come up, and then that'll kind of serve as your hub for everything related to you. So I know people try to use Linktree as that now, but you can really do a Linktree on your website. I mean, honestly, for example, Mustafa.com, /links, you could do something like that. So yeah, it really just depends on your own situation, your budget, and what you need at the time, in terms of like what your audience needs from you.
Follow up. What are some tools that people should look into if they're trying to do it themselves? But what is one that they should just stay away from? Just super stay away from, because there's really some trash ones out there. I'm just saying.
Tools doing it yourself. So I don't, well, just full transparency, yo. I use Wix. It's a website builder. I use it pretty much exclusively for all my clients. I love it. My clients love it. But I have seen some trash stuff on Wix, when people try to do it themselves. So don't just sign up for Wix thinking you're gonna make something amazing. Like Marshall told me, sign up for Wix. Why does my website look like this? You do need, a design eye to know the basics of design, spacing, alignment, colors, stuff like that, making sure your fonts are consistent. So I love Wix. I recommend Wix. Squarespace is another good one I know people use. I don't use it because it's a little too limiting for me in terms of like reordering and arranging things and stuff like that. But people use that. Weebly is one that I wouldn't recommend. Also GoDaddy Site Builder. I don't recommend that either. Um, but WordPress, I know a lot of people who use WordPress. The only thing with WordPress is that you have to update plugins a lot, and it can be a bit difficult to update on your own once the design is completed. So unless you have a team that does that, or somebody who's a specialist, then it may not be advisable to use WordPress. But my top pick is definitely Wix.
I like that. I like that. Now, um, let's talk about you and your brand, right? Because what I've realized with people who work for like service based for others, they may in the beginning struggle with doing their own branding, right? And being out there. But clearly within your story, like you ain't struggling out here really to get clients or anything like that, right? Talk to us about what does that balance look like as far as promoting you now that you're becoming the speaker, the coach, the mentor, and everything, but still being able to, serve others. So you as the
Mhm.
brand, but you also as the business owner to keep things running.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll admit it is weird because, we talk about the main character energy thing, right? Main character energy, everybody wants to have the main character energy. But my recommendation as a service based business or even a graphics designer is you have to have supporting role energy. And you got to be okay with that, right? You don't need to be in the forefront. Be out here being seen, trying to be seen, because that just says to the client is that you like to be the center of attention, right? So clients, at least high paying clients, and I work with personal brands, right? They like having somebody in the tuck, having somebody like a Ray Donovan, like somebody that not everybody really knows about, but that's going to deliver at a at a high level consistently. Um, I was thinking about my clients. If they saw me on social media all the time, they're like, "So when does he have time to do my stuff?" Or why don't I have such and such yet when they got time to be doing all of this? So I've been, and Nikki knows this, I've been the the best at having support and role energy as opposed to main character energy. But now, as I do more coaching and consulting, I have to do everything that I help my clients do over the years for myself. So what does that mean? I had to go get a photo shoot. Let me do my website. Let me, create my own logo. Let me start posting consistently. So I definitely have to find that balance. But the good thing is I have such a treasure trove of content that I'm kind of sitting on, so I can use it because I haven't been putting everything out. And I've been coaching for about 3 years now. So I have those coaching calls. I have those feedback sessions that I've been doing in my private group. So I'm still trying to find that balance, to be honest. But I'm in a good place now. And to answer your question, my business is at a point now where people still come to me like, "Hey, are you still designing? If so, do you have capacity for an interest for something like this?" And I kind of let them know what's going on at the time, if I do or if I don't. So, but people know based on if you go on my Instagram, for example, unless you scroll all the way down, like, okay, he doesn't look like he's just designing. He's clearly coaching right now. So, that kind of helps with that positioning. But if you go to my website, you'll see, okay, booked until this date. And then fill out the questionnaire and you can see the pricing and things like that. So people who really want to work with me, they'll find a way.
That's a fact. It's a fact.
Marshall, what's a skill set or a mindset hack you would suggest those behind the scenes people who are starting to come to the forefront? What's one of those things that they need to really focus on so that they can fill that role properly?
Yeah, I would say time management. And we hear it thrown around a lot, but it's so serious, y'all. Like a hack that I use, I track my time. I use an app called Toggle. It's TOGGL .com. TOGGL.com. Yeah, no E on Toggle. But I track my time. Everything that I do, this interview, I'm tracking. When I worked on my cousin's funeral program, I'm tracking it. So every time I'm down sitting at my computer, I track my time because you couldn't tell me a few years ago I wasn't working 80, 90 hours a week. You couldn't tell me I was. I started tracking my time and realized it was about 30 hours when it's all said and done. There's a lot of dead
Wow.
time, wasted time in there, social media, going to grab something to eat. A lot of that time, was wasted. So when I started tracking my time, I got a lot more focused and intentional because I didn't want to waste my time. So, being as though I'm a husband, I got 4 kids. They're all home. They're homeschooled. So it's not like that I got a break where they go to daycare. I don't homeschool them. My wife does, but still they here. My, my 4-year-old. I'm like, I hope he doesn't wake up from his nap and bust in his office during his interview. So it's a lot going on during the day, every day. So I'm very intentional about my time and how I spend it, and making sure that I'm able to get my hardest work done when my willpower is at its highest and my energy is at its highest, which is for me early in the morning and before my kids get up. And I go down and do breakfast and stuff like that. So but because you may have you're in the afternoon with me, my willpower and my energy is depleted. Even if I have energy, I may not have any willpower. I'll just be sitting here. I don't even feel like responding to an email. It's just I just don't feel like it. So I have to get the hardest work done earlier in the day. So when I manage my time, much more effectively, then I'm able to have more of that balance where I can have time for design and then have time for the coaching and consulting. Like it's easier where I just don't feel like, oh, I just all I did was design a day. Da, 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 da. I don't have time for that. So the key is it's almost like I'm doubling my day when I'm more efficient with my time.
Mm.
You triggered something with that. So it and we've talked about it, how important it is to just manage your time. But what does that creative routine, that creative process really look like for you on a day-to-day basis? And then part two to that is, how do you with the creative process, how do you narrow down your ideas in this routine that you do? I mean, whether you're starting out with, okay, I have this website I'm going to do, this logo I'm going to do, like what I'm really interested in the mind and the routine of what you do.
Yeah. So with me, I keep it really simple. Like the branding and creative process for me, it's really on my clients. Like, cause usually, let's say it's a branding project, or let's say it's a website project. So for the websites that I do, I use Inky Johnson for example. Um, we always start with branding because I was at a point where I would do a website for a client that had their own logo and I didn't like the logo, it was trash. And I wouldn't want to put their website on my portfolio because somebody else did the logo and I didn't want to have to put the disclaimer down like, hey, y'all, I didn't do this logo, just so y'all know. So now it's like, no, you want a website, you're getting a logo too. So Inky is a good example of that. We start with brand strategy. So we dive into your brand, your target market, like identifying, prioritizing your audiences. Because a lot of my clients, they have different audiences. They may have a corporate audience that wants to bring them in to speak. They may have a coaching community. They may have like just viewers on the Instagram. So it's like these different audiences. So we have to identify those, prioritize them, name them, get into their psychographics and all of that. And then that whole process really informs the visuals. So when I go into the lab and start designing, it's no surprises because we know who we're designing for. It's not about what you like. It's about what your audience likes. So then once I present the concepts and we fine tune that, then we're kind of walking hand in hand through the next process, which is creating the design language after we do the colors and stuff like that. So then, create the social media graphics and assets. I was literally just looking at his because I'm working on this press kit right now. So everything can be consistent. So by the time we get to the website, it's easy because the whole look and feel of the website is based off of what we just created in the graphics process, like that branding process. So we walk hand in hand, but a lot of the hard work when it comes to creativity is done at the beginning of the process when it comes to the strategy session and then sketching out some ideas that we think that could work for your audience. And like I said earlier, keeping it simple, y'all. Keep it real simple. You look at my stuff, it ain't groundbreaking. It's clean. It's real simple. It's more corporate. I'm probably a little too safe when it comes to stuff, but I want you to be able to picture your logo on the side of a billboard. I'm not a billboard, a skyscraper for 100 years. You're not having to change it because it just doesn't have that same pizzazz, that same bite, that same pop that it did when we first designed it. So, think about Jamal King's logo. If you guys are familiar with him, keep it real simple. You can picture that on a skyscraper for 100 years, right? So, and think about the most famous logos, NBC, CBS, like those type of logos. Real simple, real simple. So, yeah.
Like that.
Wow. What's coming up next, man? I'm starting to get curious now. Obviously, we've seen the transgression, I guess you could call it. There's a lot of growth that's happened, but what's coming up next now?
Yeah. So, I still work with, design clients, but I primarily work on retainer right now. So I have a couple clients, that have me on retainer. Shout out to David Shanes, Jeremy Anderson, and, a couple others. So, that's how I primarily work with design, but I'm putting my heart and soul into the coaching and training. So, I recently started a membership community for designers that I'm heavy in. I actually have a group coaching call in about an hour that I'm getting ready for. So, we do, weekly lives, feedback sessions. We have a job board. So we just like a family because I just want to literally wrap my arms around the design community and say, look, I got us, because like I told y'all earlier, They're designers who are phenomenally talented, right? They have phenomenal skill, but average will. So we're trying to flip that. We're trying to flip that
I
to
see
that,
what you did there.
average skill. Yeah, phenomenal will, so that they can get these nuggets and no, okay, stop making those mistakes. Stop bad mouthing clients. Stop talking negative and having a pity party about what this client said to you or did to you. And let's go ahead and change your business and the way you're showing up online so you can attract premium clients. Because a lot of designers, they'll do things like market to the wrong clients. So they're used to dealing with cheap clients. So they'll try to convince those clients to spend more. Like, hey, don't you value your brand? Why don't you value your brand to spend this amount of money? It's like, no, you're speaking to the wrong client. You have to go after higher paying clients that are waiting, not the ones that don't have any money that you're trying to convince to pay more. So it's a lot of mistakes designers to make that I want to help them with. So that's what I'm doing in my membership community right now.
So you said community. So one of my, because I got one more question, but one of my last questions is, what is your biggest accomplishment when it comes to your community? Like, whether it was a success story that's like, yo, this dude wasn't making nothing for like 9 months, came into the community, made this much. Like, what was or even just having the community is your biggest accomplishment. What is your biggest accomplishment with having community? Because we always press people to have their
Yeah.
own community. I would love to
Yeah.
hear your side.
Yeah, there are a few. So my membership community is literally like 2 weeks old, right? But I have a
Okay.
free community as well. And I've been doing one-on-one coaching sessions and stuff like that. But there are a couple of accomplishments that come to mind. So one guy, shout out to Andy Nardone. He was charging $500 for sites that he builds on Wix, right? So he got into my community and he started charging, I think, 1,500 or 2,500. And the client was like, "Oh, this is the cheapest quote that we got, but we'll go with it." And he was surprised. So then now he charges about $3,000 for his sites, and he's booked like 4 or 5 sites at that price within like a month. So I did the math. I don't know what it is specifically. It's like for those 4 or 5 sites, he would have made maybe about $2,000, $2,500 total. But now he made about 20,000 just from upping his price, without having to do much more work because he's undervaluing himself. A lot of designers undervalue themselves. Like you can actually, not everybody, but in most cases, as designers, we undervalue ourselves. You could probably up your price without having to do any more work because you're already undercharging anyway. And then once you do that, once you start to elevate your pricing, you'll get more ideas. Like your mind won't shut up. You'll start to think, how can I justify this new rate that I'm charging? All right, that's what I did. Shout out to Dewan Matunga. He's the one that helped me increase my price early on. I think I was charging about $350 for logo. He's like, bro, double it. Just go to 700. I was like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. My belly button was sweating. My underarms were sweating. I was like, nobody's going to pay this. And people would pay it. And I was so surprised. So after that, it was a wrap. So I was undercharging, undervaluing myself. And my clients, they were like, yeah, look, salute. You should have been charging this. I'm like, well, why didn't you tell me that?
Right.
So yeah, so that comes to mind. Also, there's a lady named Pamela. With some nuggets that I gave her, she was able to secure her first $15,000 client. When previously, I think the most she had charged was like $900 for a project. So those two come to mind as big wins. And that's money. In their pockets, is money that they're able to use to upgrade equipment that they're able to use to hire folks. Charging with your worth is the difference between a $60,000 a year business or $120,000 a year business. It's just something. It's that simple. And a lot of designers, we just undercharging. Even myself, at my current rates, I'm still undercharging.
Sheesh.
Wow. I love it.
You probably are too, Nicky. All of us.
Oh no, I agree with that. 2-part question though, man. What is some advice you would give to someone who is a non-creator working with a creator or a graphic designer? What advice would you give that person to better build that relationship? And then just give us your top 2 books, say a graphic design book or a branding book, and then a business book that you're like, yo, these 2 go down as the best of all time in my list.
Yeah, for sure. So can you give me an example of a non-creative working with a creative? You mean like
No,
a
Moose,
I'm
photographer?
saying like
working with
the-
you.
like
Moose working with you.
No, I'm just saying like an entrepreneur, speaker working with a graphic designer. What advice would you give that person to help the relationship? Because I find
Oh,
that
for sure.
those two styles think and work completely different. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it really just depends on what's going on. So I just think about myself, right, with the retainer clients that I have. Um, if you guys are familiar with the DISC assessment, then you know like high D. So I'm a high S, right? So high D's, I don't like working with high D's to be honest. So I like having a buffer in between. So whether it's an executive assistant or some type of admin to be the filter. So high D, get all your ideas out, shoot them all to your executive assistant, let them filter that to me, you know, and they're usually the voice of reason. Like, no, Marshall can't do this in 24 hours, so I like having that buffer. But if you're an entrepreneur, I recommend you just take the designer's life into consideration, because a lot of the entrepreneurs, they don't really think about that. They just think the designer's just waiting around for something to do, and they just don't have a life going on, and they're the only client and stuff like that. And let them do their job. But the thing is, designers, this is a charge to you. When you position a certain way and you execute at a certain level, that'll happen naturally. You don't have to have an advocate. The clients will respect you. They'll let you do your job, because the higher paying clients, they're looking for somebody to take the reins. They're tired of micromanaging, especially designers. They're tired of hand holding. So they want someone to really grab the project by the horns and say, look, I'm gonna put it on my back. I got it. It's going to get done. It's going to get done on time at a high level. And then throw some extra sauce on it. Some freebies, some bonuses for them. They love that stuff, man. But yeah, to the entrepreneurs, also be realistic with your budget. And know that, okay, if you don't have a large budget, then you're going to get the designer that's on that level. So there's levels of designers and there's levels of clients as well. So usually the more you pay, the higher level of a designer you're going to get in terms of execution, in terms of communication. I wish all designers communicated and executed at a high level, but that's just not the case, right? But I'm doing my part to try to change that. So, and then top 2 books, I'll give you 5, right? So, my favorite books for graphic designers, is one of them is called Burn Your Portfolio. They're actually sitting right there behind me. Burn Your Portfolio by Michael Janda. What's crazy is we moved to Florida kind of inadvertently, right? I have probably hundreds of books in my home office in Maryland. I've only brought 5 books with me, and those are my top 5 books for graphic designers. So they're with me. I've added a couple since we've been down here. But anyway, Burn Your Portfolio, stuff they don't teach in design school but should, by Michael Janda. It's a phenomenal book. Another one is called Pocket Full of Dough, and that's spelled D-O, like do, but it's pronounced dough, by Chris Doe. That's another one. Another one is Oversubscribed by Daniel Priestley. That's a great book. Oh, you know about that book? That's what's
Very
up,
good book.
Nicky.
Very good book.
Yes. Yeah. Another one is the Creative Strategy and the Business of Design by Douglas Davis, who is Black. Shout out to Douglas Davis. When I found out he was Black, I was like, oh snap, another brother out here killing it in a design space. Creative Strategy and the Business of Design by Douglas Davis. And I'm missing one. Burn Your Portfolio. Oh, I can't believe I'm missing this one. This is probably the number 1. The Win Without Pitching Manifesto by Blair Enns. This is probably my number 1 pick out of all of those. I would say this and Burn Your Portfolio is tied for number 1. Okay, because Burn Your Portfolio was the most impactful book on my career when I read it a few years ago. But The Win Without Pitching Manifesto just gets your mind to really think differently, holistically about your business, so you can win without pitching. So those are my top 5. That was
Fire.
right. I should be.
Yeah. That was fire. So look, thank you for coming on to the podcast. The history that all of us have is crazy. Before we leave, the reason why Nicky and Moose and any of my content looks so fire is because it's on Ecamm Live, and he is the reason why I know so much about Ecamm Live and been part of the community. Shout out to Katie. Shout out to Doc.
Yes. Hey.
But
Yep.
real quick, like, where did you find Ecamm Live? And then I swear he is like the poster child of Ecamm. Like you should see his content. He has commercial. He has one of the best commercials for Ecamm. It's really dope. Like, talk to us about Ecamm real quick. Whatever you want to say, because
Yeah.
like I said, he's the reason for this.
Yeah, look, I appreciate that. First, if you're not on Ecamm and you're on Mac, you need to be on Ecamm. So I found out about it through Diana Gladney. Shout out to Diana Gladney. And I signed up for it because I really wanted to use my Canon M50 as a web camera, as opposed to my iMac web camera at the time, because I wanted to start doing coaching. This was at the beginning of the pandemic. Just because I wanted to show up a little more professional. So when I did that, I got a bit more intentional about my background, my lighting, my setup, and that gave me more confidence. As I was showing up, looking a little, having a little polish. So that's what Ecamm will do for you. If you're an introvert, get on Ecamm, start to be intentional about your office, your background, so you can show up like a professional. Show up when you show up. That's one of my sayings. So yeah, Ecamm has been a true blessing to my business between the coaching that I do. And now when I hop on Zoom with a client or whatever, a coaching call, I'll hit record inside of Ecamm just so I can have that video to repurpose later. I'm recording right now just in case Nicky's like, hey, shoot me over your video file, so we can get the highest quality. I don't know. You never know, hit record inside of Ecamm, but you can use it to live stream. It's been a huge blessing. I've done a ton of projects with them. I have a weekly live show called Marshall Creates with Ecamm. Took this week off because I was traveling, but Ecamm's been a blessing to my business and my family. So yeah, y'all need to get on Ecamm, y'all. And the product is so dope because of the people behind the product. Katie, Doc,
Yes.
Ken, and Glenn. They're just genuine. Even when I lost my cousin, that just Katie, she's like, take the time that you need. We're gonna be here when you get back, just the support that you get from them. And I thought, I was like, man, the people behind Ecamm, they really make the product dope, and then of course they got dope people like us, as well. That partner with them and stuff like that. Like they're just dope people. It's a dope product, dope software, and you can really do a lot with it. But I barely scratched the surface with it, and I'm able to use it. So I love it. Love Ecamm. And
dope.
I coined the term Ecamm fam as well, y'all. Just so y'all know.
Hey. Moose, you got anything else?
No, man, listen, we, you mentioned the pandemic and starting during that time, at least on the coaching front, we started this podcast. At the time, it was a live show, and that's how we also stumbled into Ecamm. But our purpose was slightly different. It wasn't for, say, coaching or anything like that. It was just simply to say, hey, Kobe just passed. That caught everybody off guard.
Yeah.
People are going left or right with the pandemic. And so let's do something that proactively gives people their recognition and just really the limelight that they deserve while they're here. And of course, to pick their brain about all the amazing things that they've done, because we can really learn from shared experiences. So if you're wondering, why did these people get me on the podcast? Well, that's the reason why, man. We appreciate everything that you've done. And I think it's so cool to see you really exploring into new heights. And like you said, getting out from behind the scenes into center stage. I seen the post you shared. I think it was yesterday, the other day. I'm like, yo, that's a fire setup Marshall got going right there. So yeah, man, we definitely appreciate all you've done, man, and super much love to you.
Oh, look,
Facts.
I appreciate it, y'all. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored y'all thought of little old me to bring me on, and I'm just glad to, hopefully I added a little bit of value to whoever's going to be watching this.
Oh, a lot. Now, normally we get Moose to do the final words, but if you can you let the people know where they can find you if they want to go through the struggle of trying to book you, but of course, final words for the people.
Yeah, for sure. This is just a call to designers, y'all. Like, just know that you're needed. You may be trying to give up right now. I know times are uncertain, especially with AI, but embrace it. But you're needed. You're not just passing through. You're not just dipping your toe in the water. You're essential. You're essential personnel. like I told y'all earlier, is a huge market. There's a huge segment of the population, especially they all in Atlanta, to be honest with you, that needs high level designers, and it's just not enough designers to answer the call, y'all. So we need you. We need you to level up, and if you want to level up, you can do so with your boy by joining my community. It's Good to Goat. It's GOOD, the number 2, and GOAT. Good2goat.com. That's where my community is. I'm about to go live in a little bit. And also you can find me on Instagram. It's Marshall Foxx. I'm sure that'll be linked below. And yeah, I'm also on YouTube. I'm gonna be getting more consistent on there, but I'm gonna prioritize Instagram first, and then I'll be back on YouTube. But I am on YouTube every week with Ecamm. But yeah, join the family. We got you. Put my arms around you, and we gonna make it do what it do. So I appreciate y'all.